I'm just inviting our next speaker. And before that, I invite Professor Visram Ram Vilas from South Africa to introduce our next speaker, uh, Dr. Bhushan Chumum. He is a environmental scientist from Mauritius.
Firstly, before I introduce Dr. Chaman, I just want to say that I've traveled to Mauritius on several occasions, and it's indeed a privilege and a pleasure to introduce Dr. Bhushan Chaman. And I want to say that I'm extremely impressed with the kind of work that's being done in Mauritius by the Arya Samaj, and I'm grateful for the kind of interactions that we've shared between South Africa and Mauritius. Dr. Bhushan Chaman is an environmental scientist who has been trained in the United Kingdom, in London. He currently works for the National Environmental Laboratory, which is the sole environmental laboratory of the government of Mauritius. He holds a PhD in environmental sciences and has extensively worked on the dangers of pesticides and heavy metals. He is an MSc, Master of Science in Environmental Pollution Control, again from the United Kingdom, and holds a BSc in Agriculture. Dr. Bhushan Chaman is also the president of the youth wing of the Arya Samaj in Mauritius and is also an elected managing committee member of the Arya Sabha Mauritius. An environmental scientist, he is fascinated with the environmental and health benefits of Agnihotra, and he shows interest in explicitly deciding the science behind Agnihotra. So I think it's going to be good to listen to somebody who gives us a scientific, exposition of the importance of Yajya, Agnihotra, especially in the present day and the climate and affected by the COVID, etc., and all the pollution and the various ways in which we are destroying this creation and this environment. I think we all are looking forward to listening to Dr. Bhushan Chaman do his presentation. Of course, amongst everything else, also the importance of Agnihotra as the Vedic way of keeping our environment and living in harmony with creation. Thank you very much, and over to Dr. Bhushan Chaman.
Sabhi ko namaste, and thank you, Professor Ram Vilas ji. Sadar Naman to Professor Ravi Prakash Arya. We'll start in Hindi, then shift to English. सभी महानुभावों को मेरा हार्दिक अभिवादन है और पहले मैं प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर रवि प्रकाश आर्य जी को धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। उन्होंने मुझे ये अवसर दिया इस भव्य जो कार्यशाला में भाग लेने के लिए, और मैं भी कोशिश करूंगा कि महर्षि दयानंद के लिखित ग्रंथ सत्यार्थ प्रकाश के 8वें समोल्लास पर कुछ प्रकाश डालने की कोशिश करूंगा। तो ladies and gentlemen, my lecture will be in English, and I will share with you the PowerPoint presentation. Let me share my screen with you. I won't be long about presenting myself. Professor Ram Vilas has already shed some light about myself. So we will basically focus on the topic of the day, which is how the universe was created. And I will try to put shed some light on basically the scientific approach of this very fascinating subject. So before coming to the subject itself, how the Vedas, how Satyat Prakash treats this specific subject, we have to go back to the Western world to see how the Western world presents this subject. And probably many of us that have studied, who have studied science in school, principally the aspects of physics, they will understand what I'm about to speak here. We know the Big Bang Theory, and the Western world, the scientific world that we are living right now, considers this to be how the universe was formed. And like the title itself says, the Big Bang, it started with a Big Bang, an explosion. There was high density and high temperature, And this is physics. When you have high density and high temperature, there is an expansion of all the elements. And after cooling of these elements, the simplest elements were formed. This is how science sees looks at the formation of the universe. And to give a pictorial diagram of how the universe was formed, you can see the small particles of atoms that start originating, and then they will start multiplying. And then we start getting the single cell organism coming to the double cell. They start multiplying, then we get multiple cell organism. And together with organism, we get all these things in Earth, the matter, environment, everything that considers the environment, that form parts of the environment. We get all these things. Now, the Big Bang Theory, like I said before, gravity drew matter together, and the first stars, the galaxies, and all were formed. And this is actually like we say in science, it was discovered by a Belgian cosmologist, and his name is Georges Lemaitre, and he was also a Catholic priest, and this was discovered in 1920. So you can see how the Catholic thing, how the Catholic religion, the Christian religion, has actually influenced science. And now it is important to speak on how life started on Earth. So we have to draw attention to the Darwin theory of evolution of species. Sir Charles Darwin was a British biologist, and his theory was basically on four things: variation, inheritance, selection, and time. I'm sorry, as a scientist, I'm trying to be as simple as possible in my expose. But at the end of the day, in the question time, if you want me to explain something in more simpler times, I will be happy to explain this. So like I said before, Darwin started his theory based on these four aspects: variation, inheritance, selection, and time. So if we have a look at this pictorial diagram, what Darwin actually said, if we put it in simpler words, there were single cell organisms like an amoeba. An amoeba is a simple and single cell organism. It started multiplying, and we ended up having multiple cell organisms like humans. And this brings up the theory that our ancestors were actually apes. Our great ancestors were apes. And this is what modern science, the scientific world, if we put aside the theory of Vedas, which I will try to shed some light in a minute. If we put aside the theory of Vedas, all the science students, they consider Charles Darwin to be the father to explain the evolution of species and how things began on Earth and how life began on Earth. Now, according to the Western world, the Bible, Adam and Eve were the first human being on Earth. And the first man and woman were actually created by God through direct creation. And this direct creation, I will try to link it afterwards in the Vedas, how it is linked actually, this thing. And now, coming up to the Vedas, we all know that the universe was created on Chaitra Shukla Pratipada, the day we celebrate Yugadi, Nav Samvatsar, and also Arya Samaj Sthapna Divas is also celebrated on the same day. And in the Satyat Prakash, which many other learned scholars have actually been explaining, have actually been trying to make people understand from the basics, first chapter, and today we are on the 8th chapter. Actually, the Satyat Prakash is a summary of the Vedas. And in the Satyat Prakash, Maharshi Swami Dayanand actually started by quoting that the whole universe was actually in utter darkness in the beginning. And matter was in its very elementary form. It was like ether. Ladies and gentlemen, this mantra taken from the Rig Veda is given both in Sanskrit and translated in Roman alphabets. You will see, I will try to write it in simpler words. In English, it has been written. Like I said before, Maharshi Swami Dayanand actually explained that the universe was like utter darkness. It was like at night, like we see the sky at night. And God, with all its limitless powers, made the universe to come into shape. This is the very basic of things. Now I will try to put more light, I will try to explain more in detail how the universe was actually formed. We all understand and we all know that God is the creator of the universe. And God actually has only created one universe, has created many such universes. And in the future, God will create again and again. And only God has the power to create and dissolve. This very common and popular mantra that form parts of the Ishwar Stuti Prato Mantra that we Arya Samaj people chant every day when we perform Agnihotra and Havan, Hiranyagarbha Samavartatagre, and so on, actually explain the existence of the universe. It says that God existed prior to the existence of the universe. We all know and we all agree to this. And God is actually the master of all and is also the ruler of all creation. So this mantra actually explains the very basics of life, how life started, how universe actually started. And we all recite this mantra every day. And actually this mantra has a very deep meaning, which probably I won't be able to go into details today. So let us continue with the presentation. Again, this mantra that we chant in Sandhya every day, taken from the Rig Veda, Surya Chandra Masaudhata Yatha Purvama Kalpayat, and so on. It says that God is the supporter and controller of the universe. God created the sun. The word has been mentioned on here. Surya Chandra Masau. Surya, Suraj, Chandra, the moon. God created the sun, the moon, the earth, the outer space. And all the luminous bodies located in the sky were created by God. And God has created same in previous cycle of creation. Like the previous mantra mentioned, God has created many such universe, and he only has the power to dissolve this universe and create universe again in the future. Now, the Vedas, these mantras, actually part of the mantras from the Yajurveda, they actually say that things that I've mentioned before, the Vedas, the Bible actually proves, it says that God created Adam and Eve. So only two human beings, one male and one female, was sent to the earth. But the Vedas, it actually contradicts and says that humans were brought in groups. And these humans, the first human beings, were youngsters. And according to Maharshi Swami Dayanand and the Vedas, these human beings were sent to a place, a specific place that today this country is known as Tibet. So human beings in groups were sent as youngsters to a place on earth called Tibet. So we can see that we all agree that the Vedas is the source of all knowledge. So we have to go by what the Vedas has written, that God has given to us, the Vedas. So the Bible, which came very long way after the Vedas. So we cannot believe what the Bible has said. We have to believe what is actually in the Vedas. And the Vedas say that humans were brought into groups. And like I said before, this creation happened, God is responsible for this creation. And the first human being, they were set on earth in a place called Trivishap. This word is actually mentioned in the Vedas. And this word, Trivishap, it actually means Tibet. Now, let's look at the Darwin theory of evolution of species. Like I mentioned before, the Darwin theory of evolution of species, it actually says that life on Earth started with a single-celled organism like an amoeba, which actually multiplied to become a double cell, 4 cell, 8, 16, and all. And then we get multiple cell organisms like human beings. So our ancestors started from amoeba. They started, that cell started multiplying and ended up becoming an ape. And the evolution of the ape is the human being. This mantra, taken from the Vedas, again from the Ishwar Stuti Pratna Upasana mantra, the fourth mantra that we actually recite every day when we do the Agnihotra, Yapranato, Nimishato, Mahitwai, and so on. In this mantra, you have two words that are very important, Dvipadash, Chatushpada. Dvipadash, which is, Dvi is a Sanskrit word, which means two, and Chatush means four. So Dvipadash means bipeds, and Chatushpada, it means quadrupeds. So bipeds are creatures which have two legs, two-legged creatures like human beings, apes, and so on. And quadrupeds are four-legged creatures like dogs, cats, lion, and all, and so on. So the Darwin theory actually rests that life, like I said before, life began with a single cell organism. But the Vedas actually already mentioned that these four-legged and two-legged creatures are actually on the earth. So do we have to go by what Charles Darwin said, Sir Charles Darwin said, or do we have to go by what is mentioned in the Vedas? So what science is actually believing today is very contradictory. Charles Darwin stated that single-cell organisms were formed on Earth, and the evolution of these organisms led to the formation of human beings. But human beings, according to the Vedas, they were set on Earth through direct creation, which actually is mentioned in the Bible. So Charles Darwin, who was a practicing Catholic, actually is contradicting what is written in the Bible. So you can see these people, I'm not here to criticize Roman Catholic, but these people, these so-called learned people, they are actually creating contradiction. And all these science, all these things, how creation started, has been explicitly mentioned in the Vedas. Now, this very common mantra again, Samudradharnavadadi Samvatsaro Ajayata, which we say every day in Sandhya. It says how God created the year, the day, and the night. These common words that you have, Samvatsara. Samvatsara is Sanskrit word, and Samvatsar is a Hindi word, which means year. Year. As we say, Nav Samvatsar, the new year. So it's a year. God created the year. And then created the day and night. Ahoratrani, the day and night. God then created the universe, and he controls everything. So this is actually what is mentioned in the Vedas. Again, this mantra, Ritancha Satyan, which is a very common mantra. God creates, preserves, and dissolves the universe to create again. So only God has the power to create the universe, to preserve it, and to dissolve it. No human being will ever have this kind of power. You will never have this kind of power to create to preserve and to dissolve the universe. This was a very short expose of my presentation. I tried to be as simple as possible to you today, and I hope that you have liked this presentation, and probably we will have some questions. And again, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Ravi Prakash Arya for giving me this opportunity. You know, science is very explicit because I don't know your background, so I didn't try to put many scientific things in my presentation. I tried to be as simple as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, डॉक्टर भूषण जी. आपने एक बहुत ही अच्छा और अपनी दृष्टि से एक प्रेजेंटेशन दिया और आधुनिक विज्ञान को आपने उस तुलनात्मक दृष्टि से भारतीय जो विज्ञान है, सृष्टि का विज्ञान है, सृष्टि उत्पत्ति का, प्राणियों की उत्पत्ति का जो विज्ञान है उसको रखा. और आपने बताया आपने पहले उसमें कि आधुनिक विज्ञान मानता है कि बिग बैंग से सृष्टि हुई, परंतु जो आधुनिक विज्ञान मानता है कि बिग बैंग एक पॉइंट से हुआ, पूरी एनर्जी एक पॉइंट में थी. परंतु आधुनिक विज्ञान यह भी मानता है कि जब एक पॉइंट में विस्फोट हुआ तो सृष्टि हुई, और उसी समय स्पेस और टाइम का भी ओरिजिन हुआ. स्पेस और टाइम का ओरिजिन हुआ. जब सृष्टि की उत्पत्ति से पहले स्पेस था ही नहीं, तो वह पॉइंट कहां पर स्थित था, ये एक बहुत बड़ा प्रश्न मार्क है आधुनिक विज्ञान की बिग बैंग थियरी पर. और यद्यपि इस थ्योरी को रखा उन लोगों ने, परंतु आज इस पर बहुत प्रश्न उठाए जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि जब सृष्टि से पहले स्पेस ही नहीं था तो वो पॉइंट कहाँ एग्जिस्ट करता था. तो इस प्रकार से ये जो आधुनिक विज्ञान के जो सिद्धांत हैं वो बहुत दृष्टि से उसमें एक ढंग से हम कहें कि प्रिजुडिस्ड है, पूर्वाग्रह वश है, और वो भारतीय विज्ञान को मानना नहीं चाहते हैं. उसी प्रकार से जो डार्विन ने विकासवाद का सिद्धांत दिया, और डार्विन यह मानते हैं कि एक सेल के अमीबा सबसे पहले उत्पन्न हुआ, उसके बाद मल्टी सेल ऑर्गेनिजम्स पैदा हुए. डार्विन यह नहीं मानता और उसे यह भी नहीं पता था कि ये सृष्टि निरंतर शाश्वत रूप से प्रवाहित है. एक सृष्टि के बाद दूसरी सृष्टि उत्पन्न होती है, और वहीं पर महर्षि दयानंद सिद्धांत देते हैं कि सृष्टि के प्रलय के समय जो प्राणी जिस अवस्था में था, अगली सृष्टि में उसी अवस्था में उत्पन्न होगा अपने संस्कारों के कारण. तो जो व्यक्ति मान लीजिए गाय के रूप में जो जीव गया, या मनुष्य के रूप में गया, पेड़ पौधों के रूप में गया, और जैसा कि हमारे पूर्व विद्वान वक्ता ने भी कहा कि जहां पर सृष्टि समाप्त होती है उसी से प्रारंभ होती है. तो इसमें एक अमीबा से एक सेल का प्राणी और मल्टी सेल के प्राणी, इसके उत्पन्न होने की तो बात ही उत्पन्न नहीं होती, क्योंकि सृष्टि में जो क्रम है, जिस क्रम में जो जहां बैठा हुआ था और वहीं समाप्ति होती है, तो अगले क्रम में वह व्यक्ति वहीं से उत्पन्न होता है. और ये भी महर्षि दयानंद ने बताया कि जो त्रिविष्टा पर सब लोग मानते हैं, आजकल सब दूसरे लोग भी मानने लगे हैं कि हिमालय में ही कहीं व्यक्ति का जन्म प्रादुर्भाव हुआ होगा. तो ये हम देखते हैं कि it's a long debate, and whatever has been said by Indian philosophers, that is still nobody is going to disapprove it. But the modern science is trying to set forth new and new theories, and their theories are always changing. They have not come to some certain point that this is the thing there. Now they have started searching our books, and according to those Indian books, they are trying to find some missing clues in their theories of creation and all those things. So ultimately, the vision of the Vedic seers, it will have to prevail, and the old science, they are going to stop at the vision of Vedic seers. And now, because I have some time, I can describe certain things what our previous learned speaker described. He was also talking about that when God, somebody may ask a question, because God is the creator. This creation did not come automatically from Big Bang or something else. There was a purpose behind this creation, and the creator is there. When any act is done, then that act or that creation is done by some person. Nothing can happen automatically. And one more thing, this whole srishti is abide by some laws. If the laws are there, then the lawmaker will have to be there. The laws, they cannot come at their own. So he was trying to say that there was a very purpose, there was an objective behind this creation. And he quoted certain sutras from this yoga darshana, and some part it says bhogap vargaratham. This whole creation was created for the bhog of the jivas and for their apavarga, for their moksha, so that they may enjoy this creation, and after enjoying they may understand that this creation is not fruitful and their ultimate aim is the moksha, and they may concentrate to attain moksha. So the purpose of this srishti. And one more thing he pointed out through the reference of Satyarth Prakash, that the purpose of creation was, if the creation had not been created by Brahman, so his attributes of creating things and other attributes, powerfulness, all pervasiveness, they could not have been come to the limelight. So only when the creation was created, only then the attributes, the qualities, the powers of the Brahman are revealed through this creation. And this creation had an objective for the human beings, because the three causes are there: efficient cause, the material cause, and the simple cause. Maharshi Dayananda says Brahman is the efficient cause, and this Prakriti is the material cause, and the souls, they are the simple cause of this creation. And he also quoted some references of the Neo-Vedantins. Neo-Vedantins says, just like the cobweb comes out of the spider and the spider engulfs it back, similarly this srishti is coming out of Brahman and it goes back to the Brahman. But here a very beautiful example he has given. The spider is a jeev. There is a jeev in spider, and that jeev has a body of the spider. It is creating that cobweb, and when so the jeev, the soul is the efficient cause. Has there been no soul in the spider, the dead spider cannot create the web. When the soul is there, so soul is the efficient cause, and the body of the spider will become the material cause, and this web will be created like that. So even the examples given by Neo-Vedantins, those examples are supporting the view of Swami Dayananda. And one more thing, the great Dayananda, he quoted certain mantras or certain statements from the Upanishad, just like Dwa Saparna Sayuja Sakaya. So that statement from Chandogya Upanishad, it clearly says, it talks about the three things. One is the fruit, and another one is the fruit eater, and third one is the witness. He is neither fruit nor is the fruit eater, and nor he is just witnessing what the person is going to do with this fruit. So this is how the three things, the Tretavada, the three entities are proved. And he has given so many more examples, and just like he also talked about that this there is no contradiction in the statements of the darshan shastras. There is no contradiction whether it is Vaisheshik, whether it is Sankhya darshan or Mimamsa. They are dealing with certain aspects of the creation, and they are delimiting themselves to those aspects which they are supposed to describe. So if somebody say, even in the creation, such statements are there that only Brahman was there in the beginning, only waters were there in the beginning, or only this darkness was there in the beginning. But these are the different stages of the creation, and the seers who are talking or who are stating these things, they are describing those different stages of the creation. So this issue is a very complex one, and we know very well that Purusha Sukta, Nasadiya Sukta, and all these so many other Vedic mantras, they have talked about creation, the creator, and because this whole, and one more thing that I would like to point out, this whole creation in the Vedic principles of creation, the observer plays an important role. Who is the observer? This soul, this Jiva is the observer. And the entire Vedic philosophy has been described with the observer in the center, because the seers who are describing it, who are trying to understand it, or the human beings or the scientists who are trying to understand it, they are in the center of the entire process of understanding of this universe. That is why the Vedic seers, they described about the 5 elements, 5 evolutes, Pancha Mahabhutas. Why the Pancha Mahabhutas? They never described the 6 Mahabhutas or the 4 Mahabhutas, because the human body have 5 receptors. These 5 receptors, with the help of these 5 sense organs, we are able to receive the information of the 5 Mahabhutas, that they are outside or in this universe. But the modern science, they are describing some more than 100 elements or 200 elements like that, but they have nothing to do with the observer. Now the quantum physics theories, in quantum physics, they have started giving place to the observer, that a observer has to be there. But in our principles, the Vedic seers, they have already described that the observer, this Atman or this soul, is the center point of this entire creation, because we are going to understand it, and from the point of view of the observer, we are describing it. So when this modern science will advance more and more, when it will go far and far, and I think it will come closer to the Vedic science. And now so many scientists, they have started talking about that there is a close relationship between Vedanta and the modern science, or this quantum physics. Because quantum physics, the problem of the quantum physics is that they are thinking that 2 things are there. One is the particle and another is the quanta, the waveform. So when they see the light or the energy is detected in the form of particle. Particle means speed and quanta means wave. So when you are talking about the wave, the speed cannot be there. Just like there are the waves in the ocean, but those waves, they undulate fore and back, and that fore and back undulation means it remains at the same place, so there is no movement. When the particle is there, the movement is there. In Vaisheshik darshan, we have seen, it says that the akasha, time, they have no speed. This dik, the dimensions of time, the space, and this akasha, this space and time, it doesn't have any speed. So that means he's talking about that this Akash has some wave form of things. It's not particle form he's talking about. He's not talking about the space of particle form or full of particles, but he's talking about the space full of waves. Similarly, when he talks about the time without space, so that is also the time without particles. But here the light has been equated, or light had been translated as time, and the light has particles, so there is a speed in light. So there's a lot of difference in understanding the modern physics and the Vedic physics. And if we want to have the real idea of the creation, then the modern scientists, they will have to come to the Vedic physics. And now it has started. So many modern scientists, they have started studying physics. And now in India also, I have seen one very eminent physicist, Professor Shishir Roy, is working with me, and he has recently challenged that Big Bang theory. And they are also thinking that in modern theories there are so many flaws. इन आधुनिक जो भी सिद्धांत है क्रिएशन के, उनमें बहुत ज्यादा कमियां हैं, और वो जहां से स्टार्ट होती हैं उस प्रकार का एक जो बोलते हैं ना इमेजिनरी, एक इमेजिनरी पॉइंट वो बनाते हैं और उस इमेजिनेशन से वो स्टार्ट करते हैं। जिस प्रकार से जब भाषाओं की उत्पत्ति की बात हुई तो एक प्रोटो इंडो यूरोपियन, प्राग भारतीय भाषा की कल्पना की गई। अब उस भाषा से संस्कृत, लैटिन, ग्रीक, स्लाव ये पैरेलली उत्पन्न हुई होंगी, जबकि उस भाषा का कोई अस्तित्व नहीं है, जबकि विश्व की सभी भाषाएं संस्कृत से उत्पन्न हुई। उसी प्रकार से ईश्वर के अस्तित्व को नकारने के लिए उन्होंने एक पॉइंट में पूरी शक्ति को दे दिया और उसमें विस्फोट हुआ, और उस विस्फोट से पूरे ब्रह्मांड की स्पेस और टाइम की रचना हुई। तो इस प्रकार की काल्पनिक थियरी आधुनिक वैज्ञानिक लेकर के आ रहे हैं। ये अलग बात है कि उसके उस पूरी प्रक्रिया में कहीं कहीं किस अंश को वो समझ रहे हैं, और वहां पर उनको नोबेल प्राइज और इस प्रकार के पुरस्कार मिलते हैं। परंतु जो सृष्टि के प्रारंभ की प्रक्रिया है, यदि हम ब्रह्मांड को स्वीकार करते हैं, महर्षि दयानंद ने बहुत अच्छा कहा अपनी ऋग्वेदादि भाष्य भूमिका में कि जो विराट रूप है ब्रह्मांड का, एक्चुअली एक स्पिरिचुअल स्फीयर है। पूरे ब्रह्मांड में एक स्पिरिचुअल स्फीयर है, ब्रह्म का एक आकाश है जिसको वेदांती लोग चिदाकाश भी बोलते हैं, और उसी चिदाकाश के अंदर एक महाआकाश भी है जो कि मटेरियल स्पेस है, जिसको हम आकाश कहते हैं। तो ये निरंतर एग्जिस्ट करते हैं। और जब ब्रह्म कहता है सो अकामयत एको अहम बहुश्याम सो तपो अतप्यत, ये जो शब्द आते हैं, उसने इच्छा की, उसने तप किया। तो जब ब्रह्म के स्वाभाविक ही उसकी इच्छा उत्पन्न होती कि सृष्टि रची जाए, तब सृष्टि के अंदर एक गति उत्पन्न होती है। तो उस गति जब वो उत्पन्न होती है, उस गति से ही ये जो प्रकृति है, सत्व रजस तमस की जो साम्यावस्था है, ये टूट जाती है, और इस प्रकार से सृष्टि का एवोल्यूशन स्टार्ट होता है। तो हमारे यहाँ हमारे प्रकृति सृष्टि के सिद्धांत में जिसको हमने विकृति कहा, उसको आधुनिक विज्ञान एवोल्यूशन कहता है, और जिसको हम डिवेल्युएशन कहते हैं वो उसको विकृति मानता है। हम ये मानते हैं कि सूक्ष्म से जो स्थूल की तरफ जाना है वो विकृति का अभाव है, उसको हमने प्रकृति की विकृति कहा। परंतु आधुनिक विज्ञान उसको एवोल्यूशन मानता है। और जब आप स्थूल से सूक्ष्म की तरफ जाते हैं, थियरी जो डायनामिक्स है, वो थर्मोडायनामिक्स है, उसमें वो उसको विकृति मानता है कि ये यहाँ पर एक विकृति इंपेयरमेंट हो गया है, इसलिए ये उसकी तरफ जा रहा है। तो हमारे दोनों विपरीत सिद्धांत हैं। वस्तु स्थिति यह है कि भारतीय सिद्धांत से, भारतीय दार्शनिक सिद्धांत से पश्चिम के सिद्धांत को व्याख्या नहीं की जा सकती, और पश्चिम के सिद्धांत से भारतीय दार्शनिक सिद्धांत की व्याख्या नहीं की जा सकती। दोनों की मेथोडोलॉजी अलग है। भारतीय सिद्धांत जहां समाप्त होता है, पश्चिम का सिद्धांत वहां से प्रारंभ होता है। इसलिए उन दोनों में बहुत बड़ा अंतर है, और जब हम कंपैरेटिव स्टडी करते हैं तो हमें देखना पड़ेगा कि वो चीजें वहां पर एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती है। और जितने भी हमारे निरुक्त का भी पूर्व वक्ता ने उदाहरण दिया, तो ये जो निरुक्त में जो बातें बताई गई हैं और जिस प्रकार के वहां पर अर्थ किए गए हैं, वो अर्थ भी वेद के सही स्वरूप को प्रकट करने वाले हैं। जैसे निरुक्त में बार बार कहा गया कि जो समुद्र है उसको अंतरिक्ष नामों में पढ़ा गया है, और जो बादल है, जो पर्वत है, उसको बादलों को माना गया है। ये पर्वत, ये पृथ्वी का पर्वत नहीं है, अपितु जो पर्वता वही मेघा, जो मेघ है उन्हीं को पर्वत कहा गया है। और ये जो हमारे पुराणों में कहानियां आती हैं कि पहले पर्वत आकाश में उड़ते थे और फिर उनमें वो कट के नीचे गिर गए, एक्चुअली वो सारी कहानियां भी उन्हीं मेघों की है। और उन्हीं कहानियों को लेकर के मैकॉले ने कहा था कि इनके यहाँ तो कोई दर्शन नहीं है, कोई ज्ञान नहीं है, इनके तो साहित्य में जो पहाड़ है वो आकाश में उड़ते हैं, माउंटेन्स, और इस प्रकार की बातें करते। ये एक लाक्षणिक दृष्टि से वेदों में इसमें मीमांसा में जो कहा गया है, चोदना लक्षणों अर्थो धर्म है, कि वेद का जो लाक्षणिक अर्थ है वही वास्तविक ज्ञान है। वेदों में की जो इंटेंडेड सेंस है वो सामान्यतः साधारण रूप से, जिसको हम अभिधा की दृष्टि से अपरेंट मीनिंग नहीं है, वहाँ लाक्षणिक मीनिंग है। लाक्षणिक मीनिंग से हमें उनको समझना होगा। और महर्षि दयानंद भी अपने वेद भाष्य में बार बार वाचक लुप्तोपमा अलंकार का जिक्र करते हैं। वाचक लुप्तोपमा अलंकार का भी अर्थ यही है कि पैरेललिज्म है। वही अर्थ आध्यात्मिक दृष्टि से, वही आधिदैविक दृष्टि से, आधिदैविक का अर्थ है एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल सेंस, और वही आदि भौतिक दृष्टि से, और वही आदि समाज की दृष्टि से। वो जो मंत्र जहां अग्नि एनर्जी की बात करता है एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल सेंस में, साइंटिफिक सेंस में वही अग्नि ब्रह्म की भी बात कर रहा है, वही अग्नि सेनापति की भी बात कर रहा है, वही अग्नि विद्वान की भी बात कर रहा है। तो इस प्रकार से जो वैदिक सिद्धांत है, जो दार्शनिक सिद्धांत है भारतीय ऋषियों का, वो ब्रह्म से प्रारंभ होता है, और सेम प्रिंसिपल सब लोगों तक, इवन की मनुष्यों तक भी लागू होता है। आपने सब विद्वान लोग जानते होंगे, पतंजलि महाभाष्य में जो वो एक उदाहरण दिया गया है कि जिस प्रकार से जो लोष्ठ है मिट्टी के ढेले को आकाश में फेंकते हैं तो वो आकाश में ऊपर न जाके न तिरछा जाता है और पृथ्वी पर आकर के गिरता है। तो वहां जो सिद्धांत पतंजलि देते हैं वो एलिमेंट्री सिमिलरिटी का सिद्धांत है कि जो द्रव्य जिससे पैदा हुआ है वो उसकी ओर आकृष्ट होगा। ऐसे ही जो अग्नि है वो सूर्य का भाग है, एवोल्यूट है। तो जब आप मोमबत्ती को उल्टा भी करेंगे तो जो अग्नि है वो सूर्य की तरफ ऊपर ही जाएगी। पानी जो समुद्र है उसका भाग है, पानी को आप कहीं भी डालेंगे वो भूमि के अंदर जाएगा, और जो सी लेवल है वहां पर ही पहुंच करके विराम लेगा यदि कोई विरोध न हो। और वहां पर यही सिद्धांत जो प्रकृति में लागू हुआ है, जो ग्रेविटेशनल थियरी आइंस्टीन ने कही, वो तो केवल पार्थिव चीजों पर है, परंतु जहां पतंजलि जिस सिद्धांत को दे रहा है वो अग्नि पर भी, वो पृथ्वी पर भी, वो जल में और वो जीवधारियों पर भी लागू होता है। कहता है कि गाय का बछड़ा गाय से जब वापस अलग होगा तो वो गाय की तरफ अपनी माता के ही समीप जाएगा, जिससे पैदा हुआ, दूसरे की ओर नहीं जाएगा। तो ये जो वैदिक सिद्धांत है ये सार्वभौम सिद्धांत है, ये हर चीज पे लागू होगा। ये एकांगी सिद्धांत नहीं है कि सृष्टि के किसी एक पार्ट पर लागू होगा। तो ये पूरी सृष्टि को इनकम्पेस करने वाला सिद्धांत है। इस दृष्टि से हमें इनको जानना होगा। और वेदों को के स्वाध्याय के लिए, महर्षि दयानंद को समझने के लिए एक बड़ी व्यापक दृष्टि की आवश्यकता है। एक दो विषयों के अध्ययन और स्वाध्याय से उनको नहीं जाना जा सकता। जैसे कि यास्क कहते हैं ना, भूयो विद्या प्रशस्यो भवति, द नॉलेज ऑफ मल्टीपल डिसिप्लिन्स इज मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट एंड अप्रिशिएबल टू अंडरस्टैंड द mystery of the cosmos. And I think I have taken a lot of time, and now we are coming to the close of this session. And first of all, I would like to thank both the learned speakers who have tried to place Maharshi Dayananda's views in a very right perspective. Dr. Vedpal Acharya, who is the Pradhan of Prabhakarini Sabha, and a lot of appreciation and a lot of things have been told by Professor Balveer Acharya regarding him. So we all know about him, and I would also like to thank Professor Balveer Acharya to introduce such a scholarly personality before to us. And then I would like to thank Dr. Bhushan Sumunji from Mauritius. He is an environmental scientist and is very active in the activities of Harismas over there, and young budding scholar. And he also tried to project the Vedic view, which is the modern scientific view. So I would also like to thank Professor Bisram Ramvilas from South Africa, who, in fact, he was busy in some of the meeting, but at my request, he took some time to introduce our learned scholar from Mauritius. So, among other scholars in the audience, I would like to mention few names: Acharya Brahmadev from Mauritius, Ashwini Rajpal from Canada, Dr. Komal Chandra Radhakishun from Mauritius, Professor Bhupendra Gupta from USA, Dr. Dharmendra Kumar from Gurukul Kangdi, Dr. Shanti Mahavir from Mauritius, Pandit Irul Ramsrup from Trinidad and Tobago, our friend Alois Heinrich from Stuttgart, Germany, Professor Jaswant Patel from Chicago, RSMAS. Then I have so many more scholars. I have Mr. Nandakumar also from Trinidad, and Professor Ranveer Singh from Mahendragarh Central University, Sati Gurdial, she is also known to me long back. And I would also like to thank Usha Devi Prasad from South Africa. After that, Vidyasagar Gargji from USA. There is a long list, Professor Dr. Vivek Kohli, Principal Ambala. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending this long going on program, the workshop on Satyarth Prakash. This is the 13th day, and I'm surprised that everybody is daily attending this conference without even bunking even a single day. I was thinking that maybe I may be accompanied by only 20-30 scholars in the last sessions, but the same number, and so all good scholars, towering scholars are attending this workshop just to make it a success. So I thank you all.